Crew Pros, your single source for high-quality, affordable home services. If you are remodeling, repairing, or replacing, Crew Pros are the professionals that can do the job no matter the size. If you are thinking of remodeling your kitchen or bath, needing a new HVAC system, plumbing repairs, flooring, or a complete roof replacement, call Crew Pros. Crew Pros, proud sponsor of the Grizz 901 podcast.
Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
And I'm thankful for this guy who tweeted and said, I don't have that fire in my eye no more. That game right there was for him. That's what I do. I prove people wrong each and every night, and that's for him right there.
Hi, this is Tom Izzo at Michigan State, and you're listening to Grizz 901.
What's up, Grizz Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Grizz 901. This right here is presented by Zach Jaworski State Farm, where they treat you like family. And we have a special person with us, right? And honestly, who cares about me and Nathan? Who cares? I'm your host, Nathan's your co-host, but let's go ahead and get into it. Steven Adams Stats, Funaki Stats. What's up, man? Oh, no, he's got technical difficulties. Talk about a terrible performance. He'll be back here. He's been dropping in and out. So he's having technical difficulties a little bit earlier. And so we actually did this before the game started. Literally spent probably an hour on here because we couldn't figure out the audio. But Nathan, let's go to you. How do you think about that game? How'd it go? What are your thoughts?
Well, I know I'm going to be a huge disappointment to everybody, but it was awesome. It was great. I know I got this nasally voice going. I'm not Steven Adams Stats, and my accent is not cool. My voice is the polar opposite of cool tonight. But it was awesome, man. I think that was the most, maybe not impressive, but most important 3-game stretch of the Grizzlies season, especially so far. They needed that, and they needed it to happen the way it happened as well. But
yeah, coming after that losing streak a little bit, a lot of people were down. A lot of the fans were down, in all honesty. But you know what? It doesn't take much to get us riled back up. Speaking of getting riled back up, Funaki, you there?
Hey, guys.
There we go.
We knew you'd come. Isn't that from a movie?
I've got a dodgy connection.
That's all right. That's all right. So let's get into a little bit of the games, and kind of want to hear your thoughts on them, because 2 dominant performances by Steve-O, man. You talk about 2 30-point performances from Ja, and then you have 44 total rebounds in the span of 2 games, let alone a back-to-back. So let's go ahead and get your initial thoughts, being a huge Steven Adams fan.
I'd wind it back more as well, right? So everyone's talking about the 2 games, but wind it back one more to Toronto. And he's averaging 11.7.3 rebounds and 3 assists over those 3 games, right? And I was just, my whole life when I get and trying to work out what's going on. And you might have seen I just put out there that it's in the whole of NBA history that have ever recorded that over 3-game stretch. That Toronto game in that stretch of games. So is that Steven Adams spends his whole life saying, I don't care about defensive rebounding. And he's for the last 3 games. It's like he wants every board. He's just been an animal. And I don't know what I've been looking at the numbers on it, and when he gets a defensive rebound, a team, right? Ja in transition, and he's been intentionally just finding that, Ja between half court after a Steve-O defensive board, they're just dynamic. So I don't know if it's a coaching thing or what, but it's just unusual to see him that aggressive. 50% on his sort of offensive rebound to defensive rebound, but he's just been.
Yeah, no doubt. So he's been an absolute animal. And what was that? 61 rebounds over the last 3 games. Is that what you said?
So 60 last 3, 26 6 offensive and the 9 assists. Yeah, so only 4 dudes have done that over a 3.
That is freaky, dude.
That is.
It's
That's freaky.
so awesome.
Yep.
I didn't
So
look at the minutes on it. I didn't look at the minutes on it, but he's only had about 30 you can compare to. Like Dennis Rodman is one of the other 3, and he was at 35. Just historically significant what he's doing right now.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Well, the Grizzlies are on a good stretch here, right? And so with coming off of these, I guess really just a stretch of games, coming from the Toronto game, we can go back to that because, you're coming off a loss to Phoenix without Devin Booker, right? And it's at home. Like if you go and lose on the road against a team where they absolutely beat them by 25, right, in Phoenix, but then you come back and then you lose that, everybody was down, right? Do you think that, and I guess I want to go back because I feel like Steve-O is so important to this team because of energy level, but also we are not a good shooting team. And so when you look at that, just judging these last 3 games, do you think he takes it upon himself to say, hey, listen, this is like I have to matter? And Coach Jenkins was talking about becoming a more offensive threat. So not just a guy who can go get rebounds, possibly be a top 5 big man passer in the league, but a guy who can actually dominate, the rebounding and get some offensive, points. Do you think he takes it upon himself to do that? Or do you think he's just, saying, hey, it's another game. I'm just going to go out and try to dominate. Like he actually probably says that out loud, but do you believe him?
Yeah, I mean, I heard it in the broadcast, right, where Tim Brevin were talking about how Jenkins is in his area end, but they want him to be that shot blocker as well.
Right.
So I think they just give him these. We want to give you more touches, but we want you to be aggressive when you get them. And that's agreeing and field goal attempts. And I think that I like is that we're moving away from the exclusive on-ball screens.
Yes.
We started the season with that. When you don't have Bane, you don't have Jar to produce. And so the on-ball screen was the go-to, and the numbers were through the roof. Ball out of Steve-O's hands. And so you moved away from that making. And actually, at that point in the game, in the season, Jar wasn't looking for him as a roll option on the lob. But I think what we've seen in recent games, ball screen is the go-to. That's kind of still there as an option, and it gets used in the fourth a lot. Seeing Steve-O's touch count go up in the front court. You're seeing, in the offensive end, him getting a lot more involved. And then he's getting his defensive. It's a bonus. He's trying to go at him. Didn't get a call today to get his third early. So I just think he's given these work-ons. The game is changing in his favor. He's getting more touches. I think you'll continue to see. Yeah, obviously the rebound numbers won't stay at this level, but you'll continue to see his game.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Nate, let's go to you real quick. What have you seen kind of over this past? Is Steve-O, obviously he's going to be the topic of conversation, but let's stay away from Steve-O for a second because honestly, you're not as smart as Funaki. So we're just going to keep it a buck, right? Do the kids still say that? I think maybe. I don't know.
If you're saying it, no.
Yeah, definitely don't do that. But what have you seen? Because, outside of Steve-O, we're gonna hit on him plenty. But what have you seen just over this little 3-game stretch or this back-to-back that we just came off of?
Defense, man.
Okay.
Defense all around. And it's been a great team effort, but they've just been locked in. We said that, and it sounds sort of cliche, and it seems like a really easy way to answer why a team is struggling. But with them, it genuinely looked like a lack of effort, especially being there live, right? I was at that Suns game at home, and they just looked like they were quitting, right? It was just no effort in the game. They had no want to. And I think the biggest thing and what's really turned this around is that they have just given maximum effort. They're rotating. they're not taking any plays off, right? And when they do, it's a quick timeout from Jenkins. They get back in and they adjust, and they just have the want-to factor, right? And I took a look, so I wanted to see from these past 3 games, it felt like they were dominating each game, right? But they didn't feel like the Bucks game where they were, they're just cooking, right? They got everything's going for them. They're making every shot. They're getting all the deflections. All the balls are falling their way. And so I looked, they're averaging over 14 turnovers per game over these 3 games and shooting just over 31% from 3. Neither of which is great, right? It's not like they have everything going at an optimal level. And you heard Ja after the game today say, no, we're not back to Grizzlies basketball. There's some stuff we still need to get better at. But they're finding ways to win. And the biggest thing from especially the past 2 games, not so much Toronto because they had it so well in hand, but these past 2 games, man, they just did what winning teams do. And in the fourth quarter, they just put their foot down and they won the game. They dominated the fourth quarter in both games. And that's what winning teams do. And so to not have your best stuff, I mean, tonight didn't even have Desmond Bane and a few different major pieces. It's pure just will and just deciding you're going to play good team basketball the way you know how to win games, as opposed to every shot's falling your way, which I like better than having, they're shooting 45% from 3 and turning the ball over 3 times a game, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And that's, pretty much been the whole gist of this little 3-game stretch where they locked in defensively. In the beginning of this game, they didn't come out looking good at all. And that was, that's credit to Coach Jenkins and his staff of actually getting the guys' attention and setting them down and letting them know this isn't how you want to play. This isn't the way to play. And I think they absolutely turned it on. Ja alluded to it after the post-game interview. And so shout out to Jenkins and the staff for getting the guys up. Shout out to the guys for actually dominating this past few games. So let's go ahead. What's up? What you got?
It's a thing, It's huge. So I was looking at
looks like we lost him. He went down. His bars fell down. It's the old Verizon, the old Verizon commercial where all your bars just go all the way down to red, so you can't see it. So I knew he was about to drop out. So I know he's going to talk about Coach Jenkins, so we'll keep it on him for a second. So Black Lives Matter, mask KC is an animal, absolutely. Kenny Chandler has been playing well and given his time, and I think a lot of that has to go back to being honestly down in the G League and getting some time, getting the reps, because when you play more often, you're going to be a better player just in general. So anything else you've seen with Coach Jenkins and the staff? Because I think what they're doing has been amazing.
Great decision to play David Roddy the past 2 games.
Well, they had no decision to play David Roddy.
Great decision. Listen, I was just going to hand it to him, right? I don't care if they fell into it. Great decision to play David Roddy, who played awesome defense on Zion last night, and then came in and was backing dudes down like a 6-year vet tonight in the paint. The dude fits the team, and I just think he needs to get minutes. I'm convinced he needs more minutes, man. You can't take his minutes away.
No, I agree. All right. Well, Funaki's back. Looks like you have 4 full bars. So what were you saying about Coach Jenkins?
No, I was just saying last season, I think Grizzlies were number 14th ranked defensive team right now. Mm-hmm. And obviously not having Dylan Brooks last season, this time of the year was a big part. Having that, I think I really see the defense as that 3-head monster of, Dylan Brooks, Jaren, and Thor. It just gives them so much flexibility to just take care of the threats on the other side. You lose one of those pieces, and suddenly, you're hoping that, which they have been. To your point about Roddy, he was awesome. Has been awesome over these last few games. Just massive on that defensive end. But yeah, just starting the season with defensive end is awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so we've talked a lot about the Grizzlies, right, and what they're doing. This is what everybody's here for. Let's find out a little bit about you, and let's find out kind of where it started from, because honestly, I don't know how long I've been aware of you. Honestly, I'd say for sure this season I would say last season a little bit. I would guess, but I don't know exactly to what extent. So let's start from the beginning. When did you start this Twitter account and just kind of start taking on this path of being all encompassing of Steven Adams?
You make me sound like a stalker. Some level I kind of am. Now, so to kind of give you that picture, you've got to get a little bit inside, right? So,
Okay.
We're a rugby mad country. Really cares too much about basketball. It's a popular sport, young people, all of that. Zero coverage of the NBA. You have to, buy your league pass, or you get a few game thing, which not many people, there's no way you can actually follow a team without paying. There's these barriers to people really engaging with it. But there's a really big basketball. Only Kiwi playing in the NBA is Steven Adams. Actually, people do care about it, and there's actually not that many avenues to do it. And so I've been, following Steve through, right from when he was drafted. And I got to answer your question. It was February last year that I started the account, so it's not even a year old.
Wow.
I was just like, I didn't even have a Twitter account. I'm not the Twitter wasn't my thing. Let's go on it, and I'd search it, and I'd just be like, just plug in Steven Adams, and I'd just see what came. Pretty much either just bitter Pelicans fans that were still raving about how the JV, or you had to really dig to get anything of any substance. And I'm using inverted commas here as a role player. There's just no mainstream media about it. So it kind of came out of frustration, really. I was like, look, I know Steven Adams is a player. We've got one New Zealand in the whole league, and we just do a bad job covering him. Or I play basketball in New Zealand here. I knew enough about the game to kind of do that matching between this test, the video, and kind of bring it all together. So I was like, all right, see how this goes. I'll chuck it out and see what happens. And then, I think there's definitely a group of people in New Zealand appreciated kind of the coverage. Journalists in New Zealand who just regurgitate stuff that comes out of the US, they would start plugging some of my stats, and it just kind of grew from there. And then you had the OKC Old Faithful who still love Steven Adams. Probably like a quarter of the people that care about my account are those that kind of release. And then there's the kind of Memphis crew who rewarding bit of it is, when I first started out in February last year, Steven Adams didn't start Gruff Patch November, December, but he started to come good in January. But it's only probably in the last, maybe since the extension that people have playoffs. It was a bit bumpy, right? We'll probably talk about that. But I just feel like now when I go through about Steven Adams as in terms of grassroots Grizzlies fans, there's that appreciation. These last 3 games, right? But just generally, they can see what he does. They don't care about the box score. Helps with winning, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I had no idea that. I guess that the Oklahoma City fans still follow him so closely. Like, did they hit up on, like, in your comments? Can you tell pretty much that, like, they make comments like, oh, we just, we miss this guy or something? Like, how do you know that they're still following along?
Just like, I get DMs in my inbox going, just pleased that he's found a home, that because he was there, kind of, he took over from Nick Collison as their kind of just salt of the earth, just work your ass, get no love for it, but actually in the playoffs each year. So there's a lot of love for just exactly the reasons why Memphis love him. But the problem is that when he's with the Grizzlies, the Pelicans, he went straight from the Pelicans, and they could see that it wasn't a great fit. He had average season. Now there's just a sense that look, we just love seeing him play, seeing him happy. seeing him doing well. It's pretty obvious. Jump in the comments and there's a massive group.
Yeah. Have you ever had a chance to meet old Steve-O?
No, I haven't actually. I've got,
Wow,
I
we
know
gotta get this to
a few
happen.
people that, I feel like he's the last guy that wants to do anything more than what is in terms of, talking about life and his game and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I reckon it can happen where we.
Yeah, we definitely got to figure out how to get that to happen, because man, that's what you're doing. Your account is obviously very much beloved. As you're losing bars on my end, I see. There he goes. Yep. And so very much beloved. His account and how awesome it is. When you know what, Nathan, let's go to you. And if you have a question when he comes back in, I'll go ahead and throw it straight to you. I was about to throw it to you anyway.
Okay. You just ran out of options. I know how this works.
That's what you're here for, right? You're just hanging out.
I am the backup plan. That's what my wife says.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we all right. So this is what I want to get to. I have is it Haka time rugby? Man, that probably is either really bad or really good. My tongue did weird things when I said that. So I want to ask about the stats mainly. And so whenever there he is, he's back. So let's go ahead. Nathan, I'm going to get to you. Go ahead and ask any question that you have, and then we're going to get to the question that we have in the chat. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask about really what you were talking about before with the OKC crowd still loving Adams, but more so the way that Memphis has adopted Steve-O. And I think that's something that Daniel and I, as native Memphians, lived there most of our lives. Obviously, I'm not there right now, which is why I have a gnarly sinus infection. It's just that sort of grit your way through to do the dirty work. Like you said, you don't really get the thanks for it. You don't get the love for it. But Steve-O does that. And so Memphians feel almost an obligation to love what he does, right? It's, that's that you're one of us for that. And I think
one of us for
more
sure.
even more than getting all the rebounds, making all the selfless plays that he does. It's the moment that really hits, I think, Steve-O being a quote unquote embraced Memphian is when he picked up freaking Tony Bradley and carried him to half court because he wouldn't let go of Ja, right? But it's as funny as that is, it really is what makes Memphians say, that's our guy. That's the dude we want. And that's what made us fall in love with him. And so I just want to see if you could talk a little bit about that being in a bit of Kiwi culture, New Zealand culture, how that relates, and if you see a lot of similarities in the two cultures between that and Memphis, because obviously there's going to be a vast number of differences, right? But in that way, is it pretty alike in certain ways?
Yeah, obviously following the Grizzlies during the whole grit and grind era, but back on a kind of. I'm up to speed on it, so I know what you guys value as a culture. That was at play when obviously Steven Adams was there, and that was part of the reception. Those two were quite combative in their times together, but they were combative for both players that just leave everything on the floor and don't take a step back, and they were pretty right. So that I think there was kind of this moment where the first fans went, actually Steven Adams got a bit of this kind of this unspoken respect, could reference as he kind of grew base. But in terms of New Zealand's culture, it's same, right? We're very low key. We don't, rather than talk about it ourselves. We're just, people value people that just go and get it done and don't talk about it, and that's, pretty much that. And I think what you've got now with the next gen is you've got a bit of swag about them. They're talking the talk, and I think, I don't know you guys, and I don't know people like the fact that there's at least one dude who isn't out there talking the talk
Mm.
that get done. And, I just think it gives another group net with that isn't all swag.
No, that is 100% true. Like, so in Memphis, we are very petty. Like we embrace the pettiness. And so kind of what you need if you're a little petty and you run your mouth a little bit is you need that guy, right? You need a guy who's going to shut people up if you can't. And I'm not saying our guys can't, but I know somebody who can, and that is the big Kiwi for sure. So I think that he's definitely he's the guy that gives you the confidence. You're like, hey, I can do whatever I want because in the end, you're not going to do anything to me, and he knows it, and I know that. And so that's what it comes down to. And so I enjoy a little bit of trash talking, but I also enjoy being a guy who loves rebounding in general. Back when I was in high school, right, and now in my old man leagues, that's what I enjoy doing. And so I see that side of it, and so I enjoy watching it because I think he thinks about it on an intellectual way that probably some people don't, because he seems to be a deep thinker in a sense. I don't know that, but he does seem to be like that guy who sees like, hey, when the ball comes off the rim, I want to be in that position, in that spot. And he's working. And I watched tonight. And I don't know how much of your background is. We'll get into that in a second. But what Steve-O does is when the shot goes up, he's not waiting to see where the ball goes and eventually box somebody out. Like, he gets to that spot that he thinks the ball is going to come out to. And then if somebody is there or comes up, he's already boxing them out before the shot even hits the rim. And that's what makes Steve-O different. One, he's got, humongous legs and arms and everything else. And so it's easy to push people out of the way. But just being a intellectual thinker and thinking a step ahead is always good. So anything that you see that makes him so great in in rebounding in general?
Yeah, I'll call Tony Bradley thing, right? And what we're talking about there, it's actually a rare, if you look at an enforcer who's got that same physicality about them, there's actually few such a positive energy way as Steven Adams does, right? So he's not actually out there getting technicals, and he's not, getting suspensions, which is kind of goes with that kind of thing. He's actually pretty rare in the way he physically dominates the mood, everything, but does it in a positive way. And I think a league that can do that. But his rebounding, he's plays it the whole time. I think there's that quote last year where he's like, all I do is just stand there when someone tried to. But actually, if you watch any possession, he never assumes it's going in, right? He is just fighting for position. Like shooter, if the shooter's got space and it's obvious that they're going to at least, have a look and they're getting an attempt off, he is already maneuvering, getting position, basically just pounding underneath. And that's basically the approach he takes, is treat every possession like it's his offensive rebound. And there's not many good dudes out there. Free throw line, there was that clip yesterday where he didn't get the offensive rebound, but they had two block in the free throw, but he had clear position just because every time they're assuming it's missing. And there's just not that many dudes out there that have that approach to it.
Yeah. All right, so we got a question in the chat we're about to get to. But before we get to there, I want to just let y'all know about our presenting sponsors, Zach Jaworski, State Farm. They insure me, and if you're in the Memphis area, and we know Funaki, they cannot do it there in New Zealand. I'm sorry, I just apologize. They cannot insure you all the way out there. But you can give them a call at 901-443-4798, ZachInsuranceMemphis.com. Let them know the Grizz 901 team sent you. His team is awesome. They do, really good things. But go over to the website and then give you a free quote, or you can just call them, let them know that we sent you. Zach Jaworski, State Farm, 901-443-4798. All right. So in the chat, we had somebody ask, and this is what I wanted to get to, and we'll probably spend majority of the time probably on you and kind of how your background a little bit. So if you're still hanging around, just know that that's the direction we're going. I don't think we're going to talk more about, Steven Adams stuff, except for whatever you end up talking about. But just kind of the content you have. The stats that you find obviously are elite and they're awesome. But what tools do you use to find these stats?
Kind of just worked it out over time and have gradually built a probably group of about four or five go-to places for stats. And I mean, to be honest, the main one is there's just a wealth of information on NBA.com. So many people don't actually know where to look on the site.
Okay.
And they actually did a revamp of it recently. And there's a section of the actually just the Grizzlies team profile. You click on that profile and it goes to stats, and that has field goal percentage made for every pass. That was the last pass to a shooter. I talk about, Desmond Bain shooting 60% of it from three, off passes from Steven Adams, like literally right there, free on NBA.com. It's just buried deep. So half of, probably for the first 3 or 4 months, I just got real NBA.com stats section so that I just knew where everything was. And you can't get from that core site. But the other place, P Stats, and both of these are free, obviously, is more detailed, and it does a lot more of a huge part of working out what Steven Adams' impact is isolate what happens when he's on the floor. And they used to have this on the NBA.com website, but they're off. So PBP allows you to look at it at a position level, like the last 3 seconds of the shot clock, the first 3 seconds of the shot clock for transition stuff, detail. And, stuff, the only place that I can see that so when Steven Adams is on the court, everybody thinks his biggest difference is second chance points. He gets to first chance points on an off basis of anyone in the team. So it's second chance points. And that's why for offensive rating, he, his offensive rating of any player to ever play for the Grizzlies. That's not just about the rebounding. So yeah, there's those two. And then I pay like whatever it is, $8 a month for the stat. Basketball References kind of front layer that makes it a whole lot easier to access all the information. And then there's 3 or 4 other smaller ones that I use, but basically that's it. I just bounce my way between those 4 platforms and can pretty much find anything I ever need.
So what's your background? Because obviously it's not easy to understand these stats and kind of what they mean and kind of what you're looking for. So what's your background on this? Are you a kind of a computer nerd? Because I am not.
No,
And I get lost on the computer, right? I end up in a dead end. I don't know how that happens, but I do. So how do you figure your way out through these things? Because and what's kind of your background on how you kind of, I guess, figure it all out?
Yeah, look, I'm not actually a stats guy, right? I've never university, whatever, and I did a stats course that I hated. So I'm not, a trained whatever. I guess I'm just inquisitive, right?
Okay.
The thing over like that, and I kind of set myself a challenge of still trying to post, something new about Steve-O's game of the off season, and I kind of did it, almost got there, and just that inquisitive approach to looking at every aspect of his game, of the history of basketball, and how that currently has that. But you're talking about everything from touches per game, position on different play types to. It's actually once you crack open that top layer of the box score and then look at everything underneath, it just makes the game so much more fascinating to follow. I literally have just sort of learnt to understand that and process it and how to answer them over time. So, there's heaps of people out there that do it. There's nothing super special about it. It's literally just taking the time and being inquisitive.
Yeah. So what's your background in playing ball? Did you play any basketball? Like, obviously I don't know how big it is over New Zealand, but did you play any ball on any level?
I played what they call like National League over here. So it's which has got the kind of future stars, rising stars, whatever they call it, which has the NBA talent coming through it. It's the level underneath that, and it was
okay.
It wasn't anywhere near that. So basically, they have in Brooke and Robin Lopez have another brother, and he wasn't very good, and so I played, with him. But I still play club ball stuff, and I'm far too old and grumpy and competitive. But there was 10 years there in my life where basketball was everything, and so I'm doing this. I'll be following Steve-O, and so it's been a nice natural progression to kind of do.
Yeah, so some people are mentioning that your Wi-Fi connection might be a little bad, but no big deal. There's a lot of water in between us. There's a lot of distance, so we're making it work. Listen, we had some issues right before we even got this thing started. We were on this, we were on the Zoom, we were on everything trying to get something to work. So we're just glad to have you. So, I don't have many more questions, but if you have anything that you want to talk about, I do have one more. Like, how do you? Because I struggle with this personally. I run our Grizzly account. If you're not following us, we are with Grizzly. That's at Grizz_lead. So thank you to anybody that new has come through here. Please give us a follow at Grizz_lead. You can always follow Funaki Stats at Funaki Stats. If you can't spell it, I'll put it back on the screen because you know what? I've had to spell it so many times. I actually do know how to spell it now. But put it back on the screen. Like, how do you stay like kind of fresh ideas? Because I know you talked about wanting to do something different and giving like something new every day through the summer. And that's tough with social media in general, but trying to run any kind of a account that you keep, your information fresh. Like, besides being inquisitive, because I'm going to take away your crutch on that one, because I'm pretty sure that's what you're going to say. So besides being inquisitive, like, how do you come up with the new stuff? Like, what are you looking for? Is there anything that you might, reference or go back to, or anything that might keep you where you're always looking for this fresh information?
Look, I kind of just compartmentalize stuff, right? So there's kind of the Steve-O personality stuff, which is gold in itself. And the great thing about Steve-O is that he's always saying something or whatever that people care about. So if you look at the things that I've posted that get the most love, retweets, it's nothing to do with stats. It's all just Stephen Adams' personality, funny, basically. So I kind of every interview that's happening on every post game. It's not just that superficial personality stuff. It's also the comments that people make into every coach's post game for both coach and the amount of respect and love that he gets from the opposing far exceeds the love that NBA Twitter give him, right? So ripping that up and bringing that to people that would never actually take the time to go and listen to the full first place. So I guess it's just cherry picking the stuff that people would hunt and find out, but it's it's a quick 30-second listen or watch. The interviews, personality stuff, but then I compartmentalize his game. A big part of it is historical historically, his unique thing is rebounding and playmaking, right? So those two skill sets don't come together in players. Even Sabonis today, right? So he's a good rebounder. He isn't a historically great offensive rebounding player. With that stat last year where he was the only dude in whatever it was, 28 years person to have 250 assists and 350 offensive rebounds when you combine both regular season. So there's all sorts of stuff that you game level, month level, season by season level, career level stats around those that people don't appreciate. And so, if you went back and looked through all of my tweets, whatever it is, maybe half of them in some way relate to that unique skill set, which don't carry as much, statistical grunt as the others, because they carry a bit of a, I guess, a bit of a stigma. But you touch screen assists, and there's basically no one else that touches him statistically over his career. So I could probably talk for another 10 minutes about the other different compartments to his game. The fact that he last year was, a better assist playmaker than Jokic was, and people are like, no way, but actually he was a better high post passer than Jokic was last year.
Wow. So would you how would you rank him if you had to rank the best passing big? How would you rank them legitimately?
Yeah, I saw that bouncing around over the last couple of days. Everyone was saying clearly Sabonis after Jokic, but so much of what he does is just, I'm sure a fair chunk of Steven Adams is handoffs, but that's not pure passing genius, right?
Yeah.
Those sorts of questions, I like to kind of go to the creativity, the playmaking, and Steve-O's up there. I think he's definitely top 5 as a passing big. Sabonis is still there, but I'm not sure he's the next best. Singh has got those amazing looks and playmaking, but he's still young in his career. I reckon the next 5. So yeah, it's Steve's passing ability that not many bigs have, and you see it in flashes. You saw that behind the back pass in the game today. Beat the Concha yesterday in that game. It pretty much not in game you see a flash of a pass that actually probably only one or two other players.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have one more thing I do want to ask you. This came up, kind of popped in my head. What is the official New Zealand hello sign? Because what I see in him and Conchar is a certain sign. Is that the New Zealand hello sign?
Nobody's asked the question, so there's something not in a bad way. There's just something going on there that needs a bit of a story and a bit of a backtelling.
Do you know anything about that backstory?
No, and nobody's asked them about it. It just started to happen, right? About in November. Yeah. Happened like 3 games in a row, and then it's just become a thing. So I don't know.
Well, I'm curious.
But
Nate, you got anything?
I promise you I don't. But I don't greet my family.
Is that how you say, "Hey, Mom"?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. No, I just love. Listen, I don't really have any more questions. I sort of let Daniel do all the hard thinking there, and that's probably why we don't succeed any more than we do. But I just really appreciate Steven Adams again. As Memphians, we just really love the way he plays, and it's fun to see him start to wear off on guys like Conchar. And you guys, when you're talking about passing, popped in my head. I'm like, Aldama is starting to try and probably gun for his crown as the best passing big man on the team with some of the stuff he likes to do with his behind the back passes. And I think more than anything, being around Steve-O, forgive my nasaliness has gotten worse as the show's gone on. But being around Steve-O, I think you can already see how it has helped Aldama quit thinking so much and be more confident in his game and just go with what he has. Because Aldama, obviously, I'm on record saying Aldama was, I think my quote was, nothing about him resembles an NBA player in summer league. And yeah, I've eaten that crow a couple of different times. But he talked about how,
hey, just to geek out, when I'm doing my kind of non-box score impact, advanced stuff with Adams in terms of lineup numbers, right? So he's an advanced stat making 40% from three, because that's what everybody looks at him and goes, oh, did he shoot 30%? But he has been huge and continues to be huge in terms of team impact.
talking about Adams or Aldama?
No, Concha.
Oh, Jitty. Well, I wasn't even talking about Jitty, but no, that same thing with Jitty though. Jitty and I'm
my bad. I've got
to
bring up. I thought you were talking about Jitty.
I was talking about Aldama, but I am glad you brought up Jitty, because I'm not sure that's something we hit on earlier in the show. I don't think we did, but it's good to see him get back to doing Jitty things, because I know I was frustrated with this play. And if I was frustrated with this play, I can only imagine what it got to in some different parts of the darker corners of Grizz Twitter. I know what they like to say about John Conchar. So it's good to see him get back to proving why he was a really value deal and a big signing for this team, to be able to have somebody on that kind of deal moving forward. But no, I was talking about Aldama and how he was talking about Steve-O just picking on him and giving him, this is a family show, giving him crap during the offseason and just constantly picking on him. But I think you can see how that has affected Aldama and impacted him. And so, I just thought about that when you guys were talking about the passing, because Aldama's now becoming known for his flashier plays, which are funny because you wouldn't expect him to have the flashy plays. But no, it just popped in my head. And so I wanted to mention it. I don't really have any specific questions, but before Daniel takes back the mic and continues to speak on, I did just want to say how much I think a lot of what I appreciate and a lot of Grizz Twitter appreciates about what you put out there is that you put out the hard statistics that match sort of the eye test that the rest of us don't really know how to define it, right? There's stats, and you see Adams and you see the impact he's having, right? You see, like, the biggest thing lately, he's going on to the perimeter, defending the perimeter, and it's helping him with help defense and switching. We don't know how to find those stats and put the numbers to it, but then you go and put the numbers to it and we go, that's it. That's what we're
That's what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking.
That was it.
Right. And so I just want to say that I know I do. And I think all of Grizz Twitter appreciates you doing that. So keep up the good work, man. It's awesome. I love following it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. And it's
for sure.
It's the whole thing with the stats. Now, I didn't want the account to be, trying to pump up Steven Adams' tires. Basically, everything I put out there is backed up and it's legit. And I know that Steven Adams has his weaknesses. The series, you can't cover over the cracks of his weaknesses in his game. But the thing that makes the Grizzlies unique is that you've got so many complementing pieces that cover. I'm kind of learning to embrace accepting Steven Adams offensive and kind of go back at people but you gotta kind of embrace those. There's always a sort of flip side team-based statistic that strengthens that.
Yeah, no doubt. So a little bit to what's upcoming in the future is the games. Obviously, this week the Grizzlies do have a couple days off, right? That's one. They can listen to this podcast if they want. Big open window.
They're all subscribers.
Exactly. So that I think that's big, but honestly, the next two games are going to be big as well on the 4th and the 5th. They're not going to be, and his signal I think is dropping out potentially, but the games aren't there. It's the Hornets and the Magic, but two of those those games are small teams. Steve-O could absolutely keep going on with this. And I don't know what a 5-game stretch is. I'm gonna ask that question. I don't know if you're still there, Funaki, or not, but we're gonna ask that question and find out what's a 5-game stretch, because I want to find out if for some reason if there is a big 5-game stretch of actual, like, what's the number. So Funaki, are you back with us? I don't know if he's there. He might be.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Got
All
him.
right, cool. Perfect. Hey, do you know, we're going to find this out because these upcoming games against the Hornets, which you have Mason Plumlee, he's got to go against, and then Wendell Carter and the Magic, okay, as these are their 5s. I want to know, and we got to find this out, what is the 5-game stretch of rebounds? Because Steve-O's got 2 days off now after playing back-to-back games. I want to find out what in the world, what number can he get to have the most rebounds over a 5-game stretch, because he could actually just demolish whatever number it is upcoming these next 2 games.
Yeah. You guys, if you go back to Rodman and to Wilt Chamberlain, and it is crazy the rebounds. Like, he's not even in the frame.
Wow.
When I go to Basketball Reference, there's 100. There's another 100 people that are above him in total rebounds. You have to chuck in the offensive rebounds, and that's where he's doing stuff that nobody else has done. But over a 5-game stretch, if he another 3-game stretch of 15 to 20 rebounds, he'll
Yeah, he's definitely got to be there, right? Because that's a lot of rebound, and you don't see that. I don't know if you ever see that much. For sure, especially within a season. So the fact that he's actually doing that is crazy to me. So, all right, Funaki, we're gonna start getting out of here. But what do you have anything that you want to talk about? I want to give you the floor.
No, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. But also, I just really appreciate the Grizz Twitter family wider. There's negativity on Twitter and a lot of even within fan bases. The main reason why I've enjoyed doing what I'm doing is just because there's this real constructive, have a good debate about stuff, but actually everybody's and supports the team and keeps it as positive as possible, and you guys are a huge part of that. So thanks for a bit of a wandering Grizzlies fan that's just sort of accidentally found a home. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. So I just wanted to thank you guys for being part of it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. We are obviously big fans of you, and then getting that extension from Steve-O was huge because it allows that to be a part of this family and to know that he's not going anywhere. Because and that's, I guess that is a question I have, and so I want to. You know what? I'll ask one more stupid question. Do you see him being a part of this actual team, no matter over these next 2 seasons? I'm not even talking about this season. Obviously, he is a huge part, but being a big part over the next 2 seasons, because I think that's big with this extension. Yeah, I knew we were about to lose him. I wasn't sure if we were losing him yet. I really do think he's a big part of this team. I really do, and I think that he is. Moving forward, I think it's going to help bring up the young guys, having the IQ just in general of learning how to do the rebounds and learning a little bit of how to set screens. I think that's so important. Funaki, we got you back, but I want to just ask, do you see him over the next 2 years, filling out that actual extension and being a pivotal player, or do you see him being a guy who eventually might play another season and then he transitions and then maybe gets another extension, but he's a full bench player?
Look, I think pretty obvious that the front office have, they think they've got the tools over this season, next season, and the season after, right? So the time period of his contract, doing it smart, right? They're not taking risks. They're not. If they were to move, it's kind of blowing up the whole offensive rebound, second chance points
Right.
thing, right? Because nobody does average without that. So they're riding this as long as they can and hoping that, it's looking good. So I think, these playoffs coming up, if we're just not good enough to get through the West, if we don't make a final on from Adams, I don't think it'll be a bench role. I think they'll trade him. They need the, they'll try something else. They'll try a more scorer center, because to be honest, you're not going to get a better option than Steven Adams, right? So
No.
I think that's probably finals or bust over the next 2 years, and then blow it up. And the whole Jaren thing at 5 will be interesting to see. I don't see it myself. I think in the Lakers now, right? And his whole thing is, give me a 5 next to me so I can be AD. It's a bit like that, right? You're not going to have the same Jaren if he's playing at the 5 and you bring in work. So yeah, it's interesting time. So it's all going to come down to in the year after, and then go from there.
Yeah. No, and honestly, that's a good one to end on, because I think that he is a part of this team, and I think he's very pivotal for this team to be the ultimate of who they are. And honestly, when he got here, I never would have thought that. When they traded for him, they were getting rid of JV, who seemed to be known as the better player, and end up getting back Zaire Williams alongside of a guy like Steve-O, who is actually much better for Ja in the end, because it actually opens up the floor even more, because he can go to the top and create those passing lanes, and he can be a better offensive rebounder that really they need, because obviously we can't shoot very well, and that is that's a known thing. So that's big, but but honestly, like it's been so much fun. One, getting to meet you, talk with you, even before this and during this has been awesome. The Grizzlies community, honestly, I don't know of anybody who doesn't like your page. Your account. Like I don't know anybody. And which is awesome. That's totally cool. Just a kind of a pat on your back of, hey, you're relevant, but also a lot of people like your stats, and also just your content in general. So kudos to you. And honestly, our fan base is 0.25% New Zealanders. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Seriously, like I looked through my stats, and we were looking at it the other day, and it's 25% of the podcast, YouTube, everything everybody watches. It's 25% of New Zealand. So that's awesome. So everybody loves you. Obviously,
you're really not good at the stats thing, right? I was saying you're really not good at the stats thing.
I'm really not. Obviously.
No, yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Everybody, there's all these people that Adams has got like a 2, 3, 4 year window of his career, and just want to follow it and be part of fun. Yeah.
Well, you're killing it, man. So shout out to you, and shout out to honestly everybody else. Our Kiwi friends, as we call them. Dude, they're very supportive. I will say that they're in here hanging out and chatting, and so I just want to give them a shout out first, because that's very, very important. But thank you for hanging out with us, and thank you for joining us. Obviously, this is a good way to kick off the new year. And honestly, when we were talking, the first thing I was like, okay, this is the first podcast, first show of the year. Who else better to start it with than you? So absolutely, this has been a pleasure.
Nice. So awesome. Well, happy New Year, guys. Have a good one. We'll keep in touch.
Happy New Year, brother. Happy New Year to everybody. And you know what? As always, be nice and tell your friends.